So now it's time to talk about Le Lot et la Laine Festival, which happened on the weekend of 11th and 12th of July. And if you follow me on Instagram, or if you've watched or listened to the past few episodes, and you know how excited I was to attend this, because it really is one of a kind in France. And it was inspired from the yarn and fibre festivals in the US and Britain. So it's been going on for 4 years now. It was the 3rd edition, and it happens every couple of years. But this year, I really made sure very, like, I've been making sure for about a year really, basically, that my calendar was cleared for these dates. And so it happened. And so I'm going to try and go chronologically, and as I talk, as I go through the 2 days, I'm going to show you what I got. So we left on the Friday. I took my Friday and the Monday off, and Tuesday was July the 14th, so it was Bastille Day, so it was off as well, which was quite convenient. So we left on the Friday afternoon during nap time, and we rented a car. We don't have a car. We've been striving to live car free. And so when we do need to get somewhere that does require a car, we rent a car. And I think that is the one downside to this festival, to the festival's location, is that you really can't get there by train. And I usually use the train to get anywhere. But that is also because it's set in one of the wildest parts of France. Absolutely stunning. I'd never been to the southwest of France, so Le Lot is a county in the southwest of France, and it's, I think, pretty much the whole county is a natural reserve, really. So we arrived there in the evening. We were staying in a small hostel, completely lost in the in the nature, really. And the great thing about it is it has a very large, very green garden, which was very nice. And there was a pool in it, and that was just so refreshing. So in terms of the weather, the southwest of France is reputed to be really hot in the summer, but as it happened, it was less hot than in Montpellier right at that time, especially in the evening. At night, the temperature really cooled off, as opposed to here. So that was very nice. So when we arrived, we actually went to the pool to cool down, which was very fun, and my daughter just had so much fun with it. And the point of this whole thing was really to be as a family and to enjoy ourselves as a family as well. You know, not, of course, the point was for me to get there, but I really wanted us, the whole, the three of us, to really have a great time, and that's really what happened, which I'm very happy about. So the next day we left. I'd taken my sonata, and we went to the Eco Museum that the festival was set in, which was an absolutely stunning place. It reminded me, this is going to sound completely random, but for any one of you who've been in Sweden, it reminded me of Uppsala. In Uppsala, you have this archaeological site that is huge, that you just walk in. It's a very well, really, it's countryside, and you have archaeological sites all around it. And even though it's not the same period, it reminded me a lot of that, because it was very preserved, and you just walked around and happened upon these bits and pieces of history. And then, so as you arrived, you started to see all the stalls, and what was great is that it was really scattered around. So you didn't have this feeling of a crowd or anything, even though there were a lot of stalls and there were a lot of people, but you just got this feeling of something very widespread and very nice and very natural. which I think really helped and really contributed to the laid-back atmosphere, the whole festival. Every half day there was a sheep shearing, and I think it was the favourite part of the festival for my daughter. She attended 3 of the 4 sheep shearing sessions. The guards were really good with this as well, very gentle with the ewes, and my daughter was really fascinated. I think she really got the whole process, and she keeps talking about that now, about how you get wool off of a sheep, and then you can, as she told the ladies from daycare, you throw it onto the wheel and you spin it into yarn, and then you make a sweater out of it. Next to the sheep, there were stalls with a lot of very natural fibre from, that was local to the place, from the breed that was local to the place, which is the Caussonarde, les brebis Caussonardes, because we are in the Causse at this place, which is the Causse are all these big, these large hills / mountains that you have in this region. The Causse actually start north of Montpellier and then they continue west. I was really interested in that because that was really something that I wanted to focus on the festival. This whole, focus on local breeds and, that were as little processed as possible. And there were a stand in particular that was called Serafita, and she had some fleeces from Auvergne. So it's not quite Le Lot, but it's in the Massif Central, if you're a little familiar with French geography. So centre France if you want, a little south to the centre of France. And so I knew straight off that I was going to get something from this. I waited until the afternoon or the next morning, the next morning to get it. But I did get eventually a whole fleece out of her shop. So here is her card, Serafita. She is Christelle Janet. And she's very, what she does basically is source some fleeces and have them processed by one of the last 2 mills in France that still process wool like that. And then she has then washed and just carded, and it gives this kind of carded wool, completely undyed. So I had Seb choose it because what I want to make with this is a sweater for Seb. So this is a kilo, which is quite impressive, isn't it? It's completely huge, isn't it? It's a kilo of carded fibre. It reminds me a lot of the white-faced woodland that I just spun. It's really the kind same of sheep, which completely makes sense. They're in the hills or in the mountains, pretty rough weather. But it's the same kind of wool that is quite elastic, and I can see it's going to spin in the same way. And so she also had some finished skeins, finished balls of yarn in various weights as well, which was great because it showed you the finished result, and you could feel, the kind of yarn that it would become, and it's going to be quite rustic. But it's going to be an outdoors cardigan for Seb. And I know he's very excited about this. This is completely up his alley, this whole very, very eco-friendly fleece. So that was the first thing that I was really interested in. I talked a good deal with her. And that was really one of my favourite parts of the festival, is just talk with the people at the stalls. And you were able to do that because it was so widespread, so spread out, that there was hardly any queue anywhere. You really had the time to talk and chat, and that was really wonderful. And then it was time for my plant dyeing, vegetable dyeing class, which was to last for the whole afternoon really. By that time it was really very hot. And so this was taught by Fred Boyer, who is a very active guy in the whole plant, growing plants to dye and educating people about it. He's he's been on France Culture quite a lot, which is the a very cultural radio here in France, very prestigious kind of radio. To me, it's the equivalent of BBC Radio 4 in terms of the content, really. It's even more... it's very intellectual as a radio, but so it's quite prestigious to go on there, you know. It was very interesting. I really got the principles of, you know, the various steps of fibre dyeing and yarn dyeing with plants. You know, the modern thing, the how you know, how to get the dye, especially, etc., which was really very interesting. And then we got to dye some yarn as well. The only thing, and I think quite a lot of us were a bit disappointed, is that we came home with that. Just a few strands of yarn that each of us, so we were into teams, if you want, and so each of us got to choose a plant from his massive plant library, which was very interesting. And then we divided the strands between ourselves. But I think we all got the impression from the description of the class that we would get home with a whole skein of hand-dyed yarn. And because I talked with a few others, and, you know, I wasn't the only one to get that impression. Especially as he had the whole skeins. I mean, he showed his skeins that he'd already mordanted, so that was really strange. I don't know, or maybe because there was an indigo dyeing class the other day, so maybe that was when, you know, maybe he thought we all took the two classes, but we didn't, I didn't. But anyway, it was still very interesting, and something I really liked as well was that he had a whole library of books that we could look at, and that was really something I wanted to, I was interested in, so that you know, you go back home and you have this reference that you can keep learning out of. But overall, he said there weren't many French, because obviously this was all in French, and there weren't many French books on it. But I do happen to have a book, which is Wild Colour, which is a massive reference if you're into natural dyeing. And before, it really intimidated me, this book. It's really a gorgeous book. It's very true to colour. You have a whole first part on how to prepare your yarn, how to dye it, your various mordants, colour modifiers. And then the second half is all about the various plants. It's kind of an index of all the various dye plants and you know, what kind of colours they can give you depending on the mordants that you use. And before my class, I just was so intimidated by this book that I never dared to approach it. I mean, I looked at it, but I never tried, you know. And now I can really feel that I can try. I feel much more confident. That was also the very interesting part of the class, and you can see how passionate he was about dyeing plants, you know, about the various plants that he grew himself, and the history behind them. He had a lot of history to share that was really quite fascinating. So that was really great. That was very interesting, and I think it added a lot of teeth of depth to the class, really. So that's one thing. The very first thing I got at the festival, everything was just so breathtakingly beautiful. I really took my time with each and every one. I really took my time to go through the stalls and really think about what I really wanted, and everything I got was an absolute love story. And so the first thing I got was this braid of BFL and silk by Fairy Fibre. And Fairy Fibre is one of the organisers of the festival. And she's got a shop at alittle.market.com. And so I had to get that. I mean, look at those colours. It's just blues and purples and just my favourite colours. I just felt that was just so gorgeous, and some greys as well. I think this is going to spin up so beautifully. The other stall I completely fell in love with the first day was a yarn that I never heard about before, and it was Squirrel's yarns. And They were kind enough to keep my sonata for the day so that I didn't have to lug it along all everywhere. That was really great. And I just absolutely adored every single thing that she had on her stall. I think we really had the same kind of color palette. She had a lot of cool shades, and even her yellows were, because I'm usually not drawn to yellows or oranges, but even her yellow was just glorious. So I could see myself getting absolutely anything from her. So it took me a lot of time to debate about that. And they also had a very fun game of guessing. So they had little bags at the side of a table, and within each bag, you weren't able to look, but within each bag there was a skein. And so you had to feel the skein and then guess which base it was in. So she had, I think, 5 or 6 bases, from, you know, 100% merino to this one, which is the most decadent, which is baby alpaca, silk and cashmere. I've never felt anything that was quite so soft as that, ever. So that was quite fun, and I happened to guess right at all the bases, which I was quite proud about. You know, they are both 100-gram fingering weight, 400 meters. This is going to make such a glorious shawl. And I mentioned last time that I have a sensitivity to alpaca on my neck, but really, again, this one being very, the haze on it is very short, so in that case I think it really doesn't bother me. I'm really trying to revisit this notion that I am so sensitive to long-haired alpaca, if that makes any sense, but I think the way, depending on the way it's spun and the mix it's with, it may really work out well. So these were really very special, and I purchased this with, I happened to meet a friend from Montpellier at the festival, and I hadn't seen her in a while. She's been incredibly busy. I hadn't seen her in over a year, and so we didn't know that we both were going to attend, so that was really fun to get to meet her over there. And so we had dinner together in the evening. That was really quite nice, and she helped me choose this. I love her taste with colours, so that was a great thing to have her help me with that. I'm sorry, the cat is being incredibly distracting today. I think she's completely bored and she wants me to play with her or cuddle her, but she won't come up on my lap. So there's not much I can do, is there? Tu veux venir, petite mignonne? Anyway, I just felt there was just such a great spirit all around, you know. The sellers were incredibly friendly, the people were very friendly, and it was just, I just came back from that, I felt like I was back from fairyland, really. Really, that was just such an amazing moment out of time in this special place that seems out of the world as well. And yeah, everyone very relaxed and very friendly, very helpful. Just wonderful, just wonderful. So the next morning, I got the Serafita fibre. We went around. We arrived a little later. I wanted to spend some time with my family. We went to see the sheep shearing again, and we just, went for a stroll around before we knew it again. It was lunchtime, and then I had, my class was a little early as well, early in the afternoon, and then I had my class on using hackle. So it's a way of handling fibre with a hackle, which is some sort of a giant, sort of very long comb, if you want, that you are going to clamp onto the edge of a table. That was definitely my favourite time at the festival. So this was taught by Claire de Bruyère, who has a beautiful website, and she sells fibre, and she sells hand-spun yarn, hand-dyed fibre, and she also weaves a lot, and she's such a wonderful, generous, inspiring soul. She's from Brittany, and this workshop was just absolutely amazing. It was supposed to last for half an hour, and it lasted for the whole afternoon, because that's how generous she was with her time. And so what happened is that she first opened all her boxes of fibre, and you got to pick and choose, and you were allowed to pick 100 grams of fibre total, which was incredibly generous. And so they were all sorted by colours. So you had a blue one, a purple one, green, pink, and then neutrals, and then all of them flat, fancy metallic stuff. And the point was to mix as many kinds of fibres as possible. And so I had to take Minion because she was just constantly meowing. Have no idea why. So yes, the point was to mix as many kinds of textures and fibres and yeah, as possible. So I chose a blue palette, and so we made this. She calls these fairy nests. And they're very, very much like fondant fibre fuzzlings, really. I wonder if that's the way Deb makes her fuzzlings, actually. So this is a little one. It's a bit... The problem is there was a lot of wind that day and a lot of sun. I got completely sunburned during that workshop, if you can see. But I hate getting sunburned. You know, Christina Valentine was mentioning this in her in her last episode. She got sunburned as well, and she really doesn't like getting tanned, and I'm the same. I just don't think it's good. And I'm also very pale, and I like being pale. I think it's part of my style, it's part of my look, really. And my skin doesn't really tan, it hardly tans at all, even though I'm in the south. I always wear a lot of sunscreen, but it just burns, and that's what happened. So, yeah. Not great, but it was for a great cause, and this hasn't happened to me in over 10 years, so I think it's about okay. So yes, you made this so you mixed all your fibres onto the hackle, and then you used a diz, which is some sort of a round cap, if you want, with a hole, so that you make some ribbons of fibre, you know, of the fibre you've mixed out of it. And so it makes these ribbons of mixed fibre. So in this there was tons of silk, which was a pain to actually pull out later, because you know, it's such a non-elastic and very long kind of fibre. But there's some silk, lots and lots of different fibres, and the great thing as well, she had so many various dyers, you know, whom I've either just heard about or never heard about either. Lots of American or English dyers. That was really great. There was one that I really, really liked. I think it was called Nenuco, and I checked her out. She's on Etsy. It's really wonderful, wonderful fibre. So we made lots of little nests like that. Of course, I'm going to spin some of these for my mini handspun blanket. So I have a ton of these in this bag. So lots and lots of, you know, nidofi, as she calls them, so fairies' nests. That was just so much fun and so refreshing, so relaxing. We're just enjoying ourselves so much. And what I liked about this workshop as well is that we were only 4 students, so because there were 4 hackles basically, and that was really great. It was a very laid-back session. We really got on really well. So after a couple of hours doing that, it turned out we still weren't done making all of our fairies' nests. And so at the end, with the remainder of my fibre, I was allowed to put it onto a carder, which is another wonderful experience for me. So this, isn't it just glorious? So I had so much fun carding this, and I think that was even more enjoyable for me than the hackle. Well, it was definitely more enjoyable. So there's a lot of silk in this. This is just so airy and fluffy and silky and just gorgeous colours, and that was the highlight of the festival for me. I couldn't leave the festival without a skein from Renaissance Dyeing. That was really one of the sellers that I was most excited about, because they do natural dyeing. So this is dyed naturally. Their jade colorway, it's BFL. And their stall was just gorgeous. Lots and lots of various colors and like really a rainbow. One of the people at the stall was an internet friend that I've had for years and years, and that I'd never been able to meet. And it was she was Laine of Éclat du Soleil, and it was just wonderful to meet her in real life, and it just felt like we'd known each other forever, you know, just like continuing a conversation we'd had, and it was really very, very, very fun and very special. Finally, the last purchase that I made was from the stall where everyone was going to. I don't think I saw a single person not have a bag from this shop, which is Lilou. This is a very subtle grey with a green undertone. The green undertone is a little bit like the succulent colourway by Vol & Vine, which I used for my verdure shawlette. And then you have speckles of green and a bit of speckle of rusty speckles as well. This is really very, very pretty. She had so many very nice colorways. But, you know, this kind of subtle, muted, very, you know, with a lot of depth to the colors that I really adore in Kristin's yarns. You know, the fact that you don't just have grey or green or blue, but layers upon layers of colors. So yeah, so that was my last purchase. All of these skeins, they were just really things that I really absolutely loved, and really wanted to get as a souvenir. So these are the skeins I got. Total 4 skeins, a fingering in total, 2 skeins from Squirrel's Yarn, 1 from Renaissance Dyeing and 1 from Lilou, and then the braid. And then, but for me, the most enjoyable thing is this glorious bats and the little fairies' nests that I got. So yeah, and then on the Monday we headed back home and back to work, and I was really very happy about the festival. Very glad that I was able to enjoy. I'm very grateful to Seb for allowing me to have this time as well. Yeah. And that is it for today. Thank you so very much for watching or listening. Thank you as well so much to all of you who've been in touch on Instagram, which is always so fun, or Ravelry, and it's just so wonderful to be in touch with you. And thank you to all of you who take the time to post in the Ravelry group whenever I post an episode. That is always so treasured. I do hope you keep cool if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, and that until next time you have a lovely time making things that just are beautiful and make your life and the lives of those around you happier. So until next time, have a lovely time. Bye bye.